Hi, welcome everybody.
Hey everybody.
David, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. We actually have some cooler weather for a change today, so it's been nice.
I was going to say, it's a little chilly here. I heard in the last bingo that it was a little chilly where some of you guys are at in the world. So thanks for joining us, settling, get a nice cup of coffee, tea. Tea's my preferred. If you're someplace hot, nice iced tea. And of course, I saw that. And thank you very much. Mentioned biscuits. So biscuits to everybody as well. And this is Historical Notables. And this month we're talking about Nobel Prize winners because this is the month, right, David?
A month, yep.
This is the month that they actually award. I don't know. Have they awarded some already?
I think they've awarded all or most of them already. They just announced the Peace Prize, and it is going to the victims of Hiroshima and perhaps Nagasaki for the work that they've done over the past 50 years or so, trying to bring an end to the nuclear threat.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned this. This is kind of going off with a side topic, but the World War II Museum is in New Orleans, and I was just there, and they had a very, very large display in film and a lot of items dedicated to that part of World War II in Japan. So interesting that is the Peace Prize that we're going through. Well, of course, as you guys know, that we play 2 bingo cards for this particular hour. I've dropped the link in already. I'm going to drop it one more time. But David and I always kind of try and do a little presentation, talk a little bit about the topic. So if some of you might not know what the topic is about or understand what they do, what particular topic is, we got you covered. So let me start off with, I guess we should start off at the very beginning. So the Nobel Prize is what we're talking about tonight. And if you've looked at the bingo page that David put together, wow, David, I was so impressed. I think somebody mentioned it as well, maybe Ann as well. Global list. It was such a really awesome global list, but you've also given us a little bit of trivia. We'll talk about that once we look at the list. So what is the Nobel Prize? These are what you're going to get prizes for. So
and there were 5 Nobel Prizes originally. So rather than say Nobel Prize, we should be saying Nobel Prizes. But there's actually a newer prize that was added just a few decades back, a prize for economics.
That's great.
Economic sciences. And I can tell you real quickly what year that was because I have it on my list.
Because we do have several on our bingo card and on the bingo list that have that. And this is really interesting too. And the prize was begun on Nobel's work on dynamite. We'll talk a little bit about him as well.
So the first prizes, as it says here, were in 1901. The economics prize didn't come out until 1969. So it's a much later and more recent, and it's actually handled a bit differently. It's awarded by a different organization that's affiliated with the Nobel organization. So a little bit of technicality there.
And then speaking of Nobel, there he is, thinking, Swedish inventor and entrepreneur. And again, we'll bring up his profile and talk a little bit about him. If you have any interest in almost any of these fields or history or prizes or global work, we've got you covered tonight. Tonight is probably the most global bingo that we have ever had, I think, for the diversity. And then the prize money, so it varies every year, but it's quite substantial. And they're free to do whatever they want with it, aren't they, David? They don't have to.
Oh yeah, it's given to the winner to spend however they choose. It does not have to go into their research or to their organizations, etc. It goes directly to the individual, unless it is an organization, such as in the past. I believe only the Peace Prize has gone to organizations, but it's gone to the Red Cross, as I mentioned this year. It's gone to a Hiroshima organization. But if it goes to an individual, it's theirs to spend as they choose, and it's generally about $1 million.
Interesting.
So it's significant.
And I will say that there are a lot of these, I'll call them scientists, but let's call them prize winners, that spend a lot of hours, a lot of time, a lot of their own money. They do go and get funding as well, but funding never covers everything. So when we say $1 million, that also probably goes back to paying them back just a little bit along the way. On December 10th is when the big presentation and awards are typically given out. And this is interesting too. I thought they were always given out in Norway, but or excuse me, I thought they were always given out in Sweden, but the Peace Prize is given out in Norway, which was interesting to me.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either till about an hour ago.
And you were struggling with what to call it there. Is it a prize, award?
Yeah.
The thing that's kind of cool about it is you don't try out for the Peace Prize. You don't, even say an Academy Award, an actor picks a film hoping that they'll win an Academy Award for it, and then they go out and, market the film to the Academy and try to get votes. It doesn't work that way. This is anybody can be nominated, anybody can win, and nobody knows until it's announced. So you may very well be in line to win a Nobel Prize and have no clue until the day it's announced and you get that call. So
I will tell you that there's an Appalachian that recently won last year for literature, and she was shocked. She was Barbara Kingsolver was completely shocked. Did not even know that she was being considered. And that's kind of the thing too for literature. You've been writing all your life. It never even thought about being considered, and out of the blue, you get a nomination and you're prize winner. So it is interesting to see.
Yeah, there was a little interesting tidbit I was reading on the literature prize, and I don't have the quote in front of me, but when Alfred Nobel created the prize, the literature award is supposed to go to a piece of literature or the author of a piece of literature who presented a work of literature that somehow was beneficial to the future. And in the eye of the Academy in the early days, they interpreted that to mean it had to be about the future and it had to be positive and forward-looking, where today they realize that a work of literature that looks at the problems, let's say, of today can be beneficial to moving people forward tomorrow. So there were a number of great literary, great writers that did not get the Nobel Prize that some people feel maybe should have, but their works weren't positive enough. So,
interesting.
So that's changed in recent years.
It's interesting because the whole makeup of the Nobel Prize winners from way back when could have been different with a different mindset.
Yeah.
There are a couple of things to mention about this page that David put together. As you know, David does this table every bingo for us. It's fantastic, and I love that he does it. But you added something this year, and I got so lost today in time because I was fascinated by a new column that you added specifically for this event, and it was Claim to Fame. And it's really fascinating as you look through the Claim to Fame.
Yeah, let me say something about that real quickly, because this was a tough one initially. I actually have a second Nobel Prize winners page that I scrapped and started over because first off, there's almost 900 winners. So I had to select. Generally, I go for about 50, sometimes 40, but sometimes fewer than that. But try not to get more than 50. So we've got 50 here today. But how do you pick the 50? You know, how do you pick 50 out of 900? And so I decided to go with people that were the first in their countries. So what you'll see here, number one, I have the first person for every country that has a top level project on WikiTree. So if you belong to a country project that's top level, you can find where your first Nobel Prize winner was. And my hope with that is that the projects will head on over to these profiles and fix them up as needed. Some are actually done very well and others are really lacking. But if you belong to a country project, there is a profile up here for you. And then I picked some first women, the first Black person, the first Muslim person, the first Jewish person. So there's a few others as well. But every country that has a top tier project on WikiTree will have a person represented here.
I mean, this was great because, you know, you guys have been asking us for a little bit more global, and we kind of really delivered this time because, look, we even got Oceana was here. We reached out to the noblest of the Nobel laureates that come in. We've got Canada, we've got Irish, we've got Italian, the first child. I mean, this is just fantastic too when you go through this. And if you know anything about Marie Curie and Pierre Curie, then this is really cool too. So I just want to
Irene Curie, it's three winners in the Curies, but Irene Curie's husband also won. So there's 4 Nobel Prize winners in that household.
I mean, can you just imagine a household? I mean, and just being, you know, this is your ancestor. So it's kind of cool. So let's go through a couple of them real quick while everybody kind of gets their bingo card ready. The very first one, of course, is Alfred Nobel. And he came up with this idea. I am 23 degrees from him, interestingly enough. I'll drop his link here in the chat so you guys can have fun with that. He, though, has very, very low cc7, 541, and I was so shocked at that. I thought that he would have had quite a bit more. You know, so
the cc7 numbers were really surprising on this one.
Yeah, I just let me bring his
outrageously huge numbers and some really tiny numbers.
So I was just really, really surprised. A couple things. I know this is completely off topic, but I know somebody's going to ask. If you notice, I've got the suggestions with the number 2. This is brand new WikiTree browser extension option. It tells me that this particular profile has 2 database errors or suggestions. If it was a green check, it would mean everything's okay. Project protected. I know we've got a couple new to WikiTree or newer to WikiTree. When you see project protected, that means that a particular project has deemed this profile pretty special, and it's not something that you want to openly click on, edit, and muck around with. Generally, when you see project protected, or at least when I do, I tend to leave a comment on the profile and mention, hey, I found this source. Or if I see something that's incorrect, I might mention, I'm not sure if that's correct, but I leave it as a comment. For me personally, I tend not to go into the edit and start, you know.
Yeah, an alternate to that would be to email the profile manager or the project.
And this one would be Sweden. The project is Sweden. And when you see this really, really big box versus a little sticker with the Sweden flag, when you see this really, really big box, it means a project is managing this profile. If you don't see this really big box and you see kind of just a little sticker with their project logo, I guess is the best way, or graphic, then that means they're a part of the project, but the project itself is not managed.
So if we look at the notables, since that's my project, that sticker there just means whoever put this profile together put a sticker just to let people know that that this person is notable. Our project, the Notables project, has nothing to do with this profile. If we had something to do with the profile, first we would be listed as as a profile manager, and then you would see our box up there where you see that Swedish flag. Either instead of or in addition to, you would see the notables box up there. So if you see the notables box, that means we are actively managing the profile.
And I'll mention too, because that notable sticker's there, that means that this person has a Wikipedia page in 3 languages. Is that right, David?
No. So the sticker can be added if they have one Wikipedia page. As long as they have a Wikipedia page in any language, that sticker can be added. In order for there to be a box,
Here.
well, no, I'm sorry, it's the same for a box. However, if the person is living, in order to open them up to be viewable, they have to have 3 languages, Wikipedia pages in 3 languages, and they have to have a nuclear family member name by name on 2 of those pages. And by nuclear family member, the easiest way to understand that is it's somebody whose name would also be at the top of their page. So their parent, their sibling, their spouse, their child. If it's a relative that's beyond what we would put at the top of the page, that is not considered nuclear. And that's for legality, legal reasons, for privacy reasons. We have to abide by privacy rules from around the world. So we're trying to accommodate everybody. But that's the reason that we don't open up a profile unless it's
For
3
living.
pages.
Now, again, if the person is passed and they do have
that's for living only
page, if the person passed, they do have a Wikipedia page, just 1 language, right?
1 language is all they need.
Okay.
Anybody that has a Wikipedia can get the sticker.
Okay.
Now, as far as the box, that is up to the project to decide whether they want to manage it. And that goes for any project. So Sweden project, if you would create a Swedish profile, a profile for a Swedish notable, you can put the sticker on there, the Swedish sticker. But in order for there to be a box, the Swedish project has to agree to monitor that profile, because that's what that's saying. That's saying that the Swedish project manages that profile.
And
we do have a
we
problem
can
with
tell
people.
you that they also are. We're, as a project leader, we're not trying to grab all the profiles. We don't mind managing with somebody else. So if you have a profile out there and project comes to you and says, "Hey, I'd like to also manage it," they're more than happy to co-manage with you, because you probably had a passion to create this page. We're not looking at takeover or anything like that. But what we would like to do is just offer some help to make it more visible and maybe a little bit more protection along the way from anybody going and kind of mucking up the profile. But sometimes when you're new to WikiTree, you might think that everything is kind of easily edible and fixable, and it is. We can fix everything, but it's just nicer if you see a project protect, drop a comment either by email through WikiTree or down below in the profile. The other thing that sticker does is it gives us the connections right here. So that's the kind of cool thing. So we were talking about Alfred. He's 541.
Can I add one more quick thing?
Yeah.
Real quick thing, because Ozzy made a comment here. He wrote, or a national dictionary or biography entry. So he is correct. It doesn't come up very often, but if your person does not have a Wikipedia page, but they have a substantial entry in a who's who, an official who's who from your country, other alternatives, we'll look at those. We use that primarily in countries, say Asian countries, African countries, where they may be less likely to get a Wikipedia page, but they're still famous. As part of the global project, I get a lot of first ladies of countries who are not considered notable by our Wikipedia standard, but we allow it anyway. However, that does not apply to opening living profiles. We cannot make an adjustment to the rule regarding living profiles. That's only for deceased individuals.
Okay. And that's good to know, especially if you have not known that earlier this year around April, that rules have changed for living notables and living people in general. Oh, let's come back to Alfred. So he had a pretty good interest in, as Carol mentioned, in particularly explosives. So his work in dynamite is what he's known for, but people probably forget that. They think of only as him as the prize, as giving out the prize. And he actually was a scientist on his own. He was a very well qualified scientist on his own. Want to go through a couple more. So we did mention Marie Curie, and then Pierre, her husband's fabulous old movie, black and white movie on the Curies. That's really interesting. And they were partners. They were partners in their laboratory as they went through. So it's amazing to think that 4 of them were Nobel Prize winners.
Well, and she won her first one. She won with her husband in physics, but her second one she won on her own in an entirely different field, chemistry.
It's just amazing to me. And as I'm going through, I'm also fascinated. So let me bring up Ivan for a reason. I've got Ivan for a reason. So Ivan,
I loved Ivan.
Is a notable, but we would love to have a little bit more sources on the profile and a little bit more biography. We know a little bit here.
And notice he had zero CC7.
Yeah.
No family. His profile has been up there for 10 years.
Wow. And then you'll see here too on the screen that little check mark. Again, this is off topic, but that means there's no database errors. But it also, if you'll see, it's unconnected branch. He has no CC7. He's sitting out here on his own. So if somebody is out there that wants to try and dig in and research, feel free. This is a very, very global adventure. So if you're tempted to look in other countries, maybe you have ancestors from that country, maybe you have a little bit of knowledge of researching in that country, this would be a really good pop-up for you to kind of look in and see if you can improve these Nobel Prize winners.
And Pavlov was one of the first scientists I learned about in school.
I know, me too. That's why I'm shocked that he is. Yeah, I'm shocked that his profile doesn't, go into even more detail, like Carol said. I mean, this is like, we've talked about Pavlov's dogs.
And when you get the can opener out and your cat or your dog comes running into the kitchen, or you walk outside and your chickens all flock to you, that's what's going on there.
And then here's another one that shocked me as well. So Mr. Einstein, he has only 262 connections. Totally shocked by this. I am blown away. I am 27 degrees, which I consider that thankful because he barely has any connections up there. I'll drop his profile in there if you want to check your connection, but I'm positive we could probably do something to.
Oh yeah, I beat you. I'm 26.
Yeah, you did. But I would think, so here's a good example. If we have any Germany members in, generally they attend the earlier bingo, but if we have any Germany members in, that's where he's from. That's where he's listed. So maybe they could do a pop-up or dig in there. And then we talk a little bit about literature, but this is the first female Latin American. Let me bring her up. And she's unconnected because she has that little dude that I call it the little connecting dude there. She's a notable, and she was born in Chile. Again, would love to see a little bit more about who this woman is. I'm intrigued, and I would love to know a little bit more. Okay.
Yeah, she's Chilean, so maybe Vicky can take a stab at it.
Yeah, and see, this is really, but the first Latin American author to receive the Nobel.
So she's the first Latin American woman to receive a prize on any category.
Wow.
Not just literature.
Wow. Okay, and then if you guys are ready, yay! Thank you, Vicky. To-do list, at least connected, because I'm just curious too who she is. I know we can always go to Wikipedia and stuff, but I love it when you guys take up these profiles and write a biography, because generally, if you're doing that, you've got an intrigue or a passion for the topic, the person, the location, however it might be. Okay, let's go ahead and play the first
I
video.
want to comment here. So Carol made a comment here, and I've been struggling with this. Woman and man versus male and female. I've gone back and forth, and I don't know which one is considered proper. Is it the first woman prize winner or the first female prize winner?
Good question.
I got Carol's opinion here. I don't have
And
an
I
opinion.
I do
just wanted
think
to turn it over.
it's going to depend. I think people will say things different around the globe as
Yeah.
well, and have different opinions for it. But let's go ahead and go to the first bingo card if you guys are ready. The very first one, everybody is connected. So we're going to do something a little different with bingo cards. Everybody is connected to know how to play bingo. Let's bring up the rules. So the very first thing to know about bingo is you can only win a prize on WikiTree once every 6 months. If you won on the Source-a-thon that just happened, then still feel free to play the game with us, but you cannot win bingo. And one prize per household every 6 months. So if you won, somebody else that lives with you cannot win until 6 months is going by from the winner. We say one mug per prize. Generally, it's a mug. That there's a few other little things that you could pick from, but most people are picking the mug. It's open to everyone. You do not need to be a WikiTree member. You can bring your family and your friends to join in a bingo. If you do win, and I do not know you personally, would you please drop your WikiTree ID in the chat? That helps us out a lot. There'll be 2 bingo games this time slot. This will be the first one. And how do you do it? Click your mouse. So bring up the card. You can click your mouse. There should be a free space in the middle. And when we call out a name, in this case, we're going to be calling a name, just use your mouse to click the space. If you accidentally click it and didn't mean to, just click it again and it'll disappear. And you can win horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. And don't forget to win bingo. So if you do get one of these, horizontal, vertically, or diagonally, you need to type bingo real loud. Feel free to in all caps and to yell at us in the chat. And that lets us know that you won bingo. If several of you won bingo at the same time, whoever's the fastest to type is going to be the winner. And this is exactly how to do it as Ann did, because we'll get talking. So feel free to yell bingo, bingo, bingo. I don't know if a lot of you know as well that when David and I are talking, there's anywhere between a 6 to 10 second delay by the time that it gets to you, and the same coming back. So keep that in mind too. Sometimes you might type bingo and it takes us about 6 to 10 seconds to bring it up and see it. Let me share my screen as we go through the first bingo card. Okay, if you guys are ready, let's have some fun here. David, I'm going to rely on you a lot for this. So Irene
Curry, so that's Marie and Pierre's daughter, and she won a chemistry prize with her husband.
I mean, that's just amazing.
Who also took the name Curie.
Why not? You know, that's funny, but it's interesting because imitated her parents and came through, so they worked together. So why not?
Easier to get a grant when you're
Philip Leonard was Philip.
So Philip Leonard was a Hungarian physicist, 1905, first Hungarian. And I couldn't tell you what most of these people did, even if I read it.
No, it gets complicated. Good old Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt was the first American to win a prize of any nature.
Really?
Prize.
Well,
He won that in 1906.
That's
So
a good trivia question.
Prizes came out in 1901. America didn't win one until 1906, but you got to remember that America was not as advanced of a country as it is today at that time. So scientifically, we were not up there. Carlos Columbus, I believe he was the first Latin American literature prize. Let me double check that. Yeah, first Latin, he was from Argentina, 1936. First Latin American to win. Well, also first Latin American to win any prize that he won in literature.
And Ronald Ross. Now, I just put medicine. There's kind of a 2-category.
So, yeah, this is a interestingly worded category. It's called physiology or medicine. And you don't win one or the other. You win the award in physiology or medicine. They don't tell you, they don't distinguish between the two. So Ronald Ross from England, he was the first English laureate, 1902, and he won the award in physiology or medicine.
So if you went to his profile, you could probably look with a biography there to see exactly what he won. And if there's no profile there, feel free to go to Wikipedia and other places. The Nobel website has a lot of details as well.
And an interesting thing about him is he wasn't actually born in England. He was born in British India. So he could be considered the first Indian, but he was British. So
now this looks like I have a typo, but I looked at it 3 times when I typed it in.
Yes, he's the very first. And I lost my page here. Okay, he was the very first chemistry laureate. Won the first chemistry award in 1901. And he is from the Netherlands, so he's got a name that's a little different than what we're used to in the English language.
And then Margie, thank you for saying this. So the gentleman that we were talking about that won previously, one mentioned, was for his work on malaria.
Okay, good.
Emil von Behring.
The first German. He won the first award. Well, he actually shared the first physiology or medicine award with a fellow German. So together they are the first German laureates and the first physiology or medicine laureates.
And are they the first shared as well?
Well, that would be, they would also be the first. Well, they would be the first shared.
Interesting. And Gertie Corey, I think, is she fairly recent?
She is. She was in 1947. She was the first Austrian to win an award, and hers was in physiology or medicine.
Joku, thank you for telling me that, because I kept looking at that name and I kept thinking I didn't quite understand the T. So thank you for telling me that. I will remember that in the future. And actually, we're going to rely on you for a name coming up probably on the next card. So Niels Finsen.
Niels Finsen. He was the first Danish laureate, 1903, physiology or medicine.
And Frederick Banting.
Yeah, Banting was the first Canadian, also physiology or medicine. He did not win his until 1923, so it was quite a while before the Canadians got recognized.
And I just want to point out too, so Veg Beauty, I love that you were here at the noon and won bingo then, but she won a prize at the Source-a-thon, so keep playing. But thank you for coming back, and thank you for playing, because that's what I would do. I would still kind of play along as well, and I appreciate you coming in here. And I love it, beginner's luck. So It makes me smile when you come in. Let's see. Well, Darren, your kids are also allowed to play bingo because I know that there's 2 members in here that their kids are also playing as we go along. I got 5 in a row, but can't win because Katie, I think you won at the Source-a-thon as well, and Nancy won at the Source-a-thon.
And can't win.
Okay, so Bertha von Suttner for peace.
Yeah, she was 1905. She was the first female Peace Prize winner, and she was the first Czechoslovakian woman.
I love the global of this. I really do. And then, of course, Alfred Nobel. He's the man who started it all.
Mm-hmm.
It would be kind of cool if somebody got bingo on his name. That would be appropriate. And the ones that I'm showing you here, they are on WikiTree. They are connected, but that doesn't mean they have very good CC7.
Yeah. And as we showed before, it doesn't mean they have a lot of sources, and it doesn't mean they have much in the way of a biography. So,
and then Albert Einstein.
He was not a first on anything, but I couldn't have a Nobel Prize challenge without Albert Einstein. So,
it's so amazing to me that he just has a low CC7. I'm still really, really amazed. So, I think he spent a lot of time in Germany and Austria. So if anybody has any spare time, feel free. And Christine won bingo. So congratulations,
Chris.
And you're going to claim your prize by emailing Aowen and let her know that you won bingo, and she will send you all the information you need to claim your prize. For the longest time, I don't know if it still is, but for the longest time, the bingo mug was the best-selling item. I think now it's kind of moved over to the Thon mugs, your particular team. So feel free to pick a mug. There's so many to choose from. That would be where I would head off onto the. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about some of these people on your table, David, because there's some other interesting ones. So I'm not going to try and pronounce names that I know that I will not get right because I think it's disrespectful. So bear with me on this as well. But I thought this was interesting, the first Asian. But again, I like showing you guys how things are done in a native language. And then we're combining it with English language so we can get people to work on the profiles, right, David?
Right. And what I'd like to point out, this is the point of last year's 15 Nations tour and this year's global project. This individual has 39 connections. He's Japanese. Somebody knows how to do Japanese research or figured it out or was able to make a American or European connection and get him connected that way. But as you go through, the vast majority of the individuals selected this month are connected. And the point being that it doesn't matter where in the world they are, there is a way to connect them. Don't look at the country and say, oh, that's impossible, I'm not going to work on that. You may be surprised how easy it is to get some of these connected.
And this is also showing, it shows a Wikipedia as well, but it also shows the who's who that we were mentioning before as a source. And, this would be Greg Clark would love this one because we're talking a little bit of mathematics. But as you said, David, I'm 24 degrees so somebody has figured it out.
So I just did a check on mine, and it at spot 12, which is, let's see, I'm 30 degrees, but at spot 12, a Japanese woman married somebody from Arkansas, and that's how the connection's made to me.
Interesting. So from Japan to Arkansas.
Arkansas.
This is kind of where I talk about the power of WikiTree. You never know. You never know who you're going to be connected to and how you're going to be connected to somebody. I want to bring up, and everybody keeps mentioning too, and I'm a fan as well. WB Yeats. I did not know that he was a Nobel Peace Prize winner. I was shocked at this as well. And let me go ahead and drop the second bingo card in for you guys as well. So and again, we're seeing a lot of these are project protected, just to kind of show off that these are some of the most important profiles to a project and to a country in this example. And this is a really beautiful profile where somebody's taking the time to update it as with the photos, but his life, including his start, and then going down his life to show where he was thinking, where he was going, his politics, his theaters, his Nobel Prize, his writing, and then going into his political career with his marriage and his children after. So this is a really, really great profile. This is something too that I don't know about you guys, but I would stop and look and read. Even if I did not know who he was, I would stop and look at this and say, okay, I'm curious. The other thing I want to mention that David has taught me is putting the major works here is fantastic. Putting all of his works here is overkill.
Right.
Wouldn't you say, David?
Yeah, and we get that with the notables. We'll get, you know, I'm trying to think of a famous star, Cary Grant, and every movie Cary Grant was in from the B movies before he was famous in the uncredited roles. That doesn't need to go on a profile page. That there's two ways you can handle that. You could do a free space page, but you can also just link to, say, the Internet Movie Database or some other page that has them. There's no sense in retyping everything that's already available somewhere else. Just put a link in. But you do want to put the highlights. You know, if somebody's never heard of the person before, you know, tell me what he wrote. But I don't need to see every poem of his 500 poems.
And the cool thing is if you do link, say, you know, you're talking about Cary Grant, and you do link to IMDb, guess what? WikiTree in Azure with Ambassadors has this mini project called Link Builders. So while you're over there at IMDb looking at maybe their collection of works of a particular profile person, add the link to the WikiTree profile. So as David said, go look for their information on the other site, and then while you're there, come on and bring it back into WikiTree. So more and more people see the work, because this is beautiful. This is a really nice profile.
Yeah, scroll up just a little bit, right here. Let's stop right. Look at his political career here. So without reading it, both of these paragraphs are really nice size.
Mm-hmm.
It's enough to get solid information in without boring the reader with too much information. And if somebody does want further information, you can direct them where to go. So you're giving a summary of each segment of their life. You're not giving every little tidbit. I've seen pages that talk about reviews of the movies or their books, and just have paragraph after paragraph of what other people thought about their books. That's not necessary in a genealogical profile. But you do want to mention their careers and their highlights, but keep it kind of short and simple. Give people the gist of the story, and then again, if they want to find out more, there's lots of places online they can go.
And that's encouraging, because some people don't like to write long biographies, and we're not telling you need all the information that you have. I'm looking too at the table that you have, and as we go down the list, you can see that we have some of the newer.
Oh, and that shouldn't say Sweden there.
Wrong in there. We'll fix that. But the one that I wanted to bring up, because I loved her story, I really wish I could pronounce her name correctly. I'm not sure. I'm going to try like Wangari, but I'm not sure if I got that right. But she was an activist in Kenya. Amazing person. Definitely take time to get to know her. She's pretty amazing. But if you notice that her husband here has the name Mathai, and she has Maathai. And this is just one of the cheeky things that I thought was fantastic about her. And you can tell from her smile. So when they divorced, he required her to not use his name. He didn't want her to have his name anymore. So she said, fine. And she added an A. And she's no longer using his name. So sometimes you read about these Nobel Prize winners and you think it's going to be all technical or science, and sometimes you really get to know who the person is. And to me, I love that story. I thought that was really funny.
Okay, and she's a good example of a woman who was just doing what she thought was the right thing, and was not out to win a prize.
It probably never thought she would win a prize either. That's one of the things. She's unconnected because I have a little connector dude here. She's got 2 connections. So if anybody wants to give it a try, then definitely head over to her page, her profile page, and check out the resources that are already there. See if you can add more sources or more people. If not, then go over to David's Global Project and ask for help as well.
Yeah, okay. She was actually featured originally in our 15 Nations Kenya project.
I was going to ask you about that. I thought maybe she was.
Yeah, so
because Kenya was, right?
Kenya was, yeah.
Yeah.
That was our very first, I believe, our very first country.
Okay, and just to remind everybody of the rules, if you've won in the last 6 months anywhere on WikiTree, you cannot win, but please play along. I noticed that some of you are having fun with that, so please play along and join us as we discuss the Nobel winners for this card. This card is a little different. This card has, I hope you guys can see it. If they are in green, they are not connected. So very first thing, Henry Durant for peace.
My list up here.
And again, just click on his name to.
Yeah, Henry Durant, the first Swiss winner, Peace Prize in, very first Peace Prize winner, shared with Frederick Passy. And he was from Switzerland, which makes sense. Switzerland would have been the most peaceful country at the time.
At the time. Linus Pauling for chemistry and peace. Did he win too?
So Linus Pauling was actually one of my professors in college. And he is the only person to win 2 independent, and I'll explain that, prizes. So in other words, he won a chemistry prize and he won the Peace Prize by himself. He didn't share with anybody. Only person to have done that. He did work with vitamin C and was known for having, you know, how we all take vitamin C to fight colds and that. He did a lot of research on that. And then later in life, he became a peace activist and won the Nobel Peace Prize.
And then I like this name, John Goodenough.
It sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, John Goodenough.
Yeah, before
okay, I'm getting your all's message. You don't like the colors. We'll go back to all one color. Next bingo.
So John B, I think it's pronounced good now, but he was won the 2019 chemistry award, and he is the oldest person to have ever won an award. He was 97 years old at the time.
Oh my gosh.
A little tidbit: you cannot win an award if you're deceased. So if it can only be given to living individuals. However, if you win the award and then pass away, they'll still give you the award. But you are not qualified to win if you have passed away. Jan Tinberg. He would be a Scandinavian. Jan Tinberg won. Oh, the first economics. He shared the first economics award in 1969, and he's from the Netherlands.
Hey guys, just so you know, the green is the green that's in the WikiTree logo as well. That's kind of where we were going with that, or where I was, I should say. I'm not gonna put that on David. So Ragnar Frisch.
And he was the other. The two of them shared the first economics award. He's from Norway. They shared the first economics award. Jose.
Yeah. I can see his
Spanish.
picture. Yeah.
Spanish literature, 1904. Only has 4 connections.
Wow.
Many of these that are not connected, it's because they didn't even have a profile. I created the profiles over the past day or two. But there's a few that had profiles that just still are not connected.
So Henri Moissan?
Henri, yeah, he is a French. Oh, the first Jewish laureate, won an award in chemistry. He's from France, 1906.
1906.
5 connections.
And then I kind of added this in on David without telling him. Barbara Kingsolver. She is not on his table.
I don't recognize that one.
She is the one that she's the Appalachian that won last year. Totally shocked. She was totally blown away, shocked by it. And she's one of our champions that we have of our region and our project. And I will point out, since you've mentioned it as well, she used a little help with her CC7 as well. We talked about, I'm going to try 𝐓𝐡𝐞
Yeah, he's the first Asian, is the first Japanese, but also the first from anywhere in Asia, 1949. One for physics, and he is connected, though, with 39 connections.
And then Sully Prudhomme.
Yeah, he's from France. He won the very first literature award, and then, of course, the first French winner with Frederick Passy, who also won the same year, also from France.
And, modern age, Toni Morrison.
Toni Morrison, I think most people know her. She was the first African-American woman to win an award in any category. Obviously, she won for literature. That was 1993.
Was it? I was wondering. I thought it would be a little later than that, but so Max. Max
Thiele is the first South African, actually the first African. In 1950, physiology or medicine. He is not connected, so the South Africans may want to get to work on that one. He has 4 connections. Ivan Pavlov, we talked about.
I still can't believe that he has such low CC7. I'm just surprised at that because, like you said, this is one of the first things I learned about anything in science. I think it was clouds and Pavlov's dog.
Mm-hmm. And I learned about Gregor Mendel and the peas.
And Bertrand
Russell. So this is an interesting one. Bertrand Russell's the first Welsh laureate, one for literature. I have always been told that Welsh genealogy is amongst the hardest. Don't know if it's true because I have no Welsh ancestors, but I've always been told that. But he has the highest CC7s of any of our Nobel Prize winners with 12,835.
Really?
That is an amazing number of.
Well, now I'm curious. So, I will tell you, I don't know if he is watching, but usually when I need Welsh help, I go to Irish John. But when I need Welsh help, I tend to call him Welsh John when I go through there. So, Margie, congratulations. You won bingo. And since you mentioned it, David, I'm going to drop it in the chat, his link. And I am actually 18 degrees from him.
He had 4 wives, so that probably helps boost his score.
And I can tell you, he goes through my very, very, very German, Appalachian German lines. So, but I always, John, thank you very much, because I always rely on John. I work a lot with Welsh coal miners and some Welsh in my family, and I'm constantly bugging John for help with that. But we have a bingo winner. So congratulations, Margie, on winning bingo. Let me bring up Aowen's information one more time. You're going to email Aowen, and she's going to send you all the details on how to claim your prize. I do think that the supplier for a prize is a little bit behind. There's been a lot of activity weather-wise that has made their production lines slower than normal. So if you don't get the prize instantly or within 2 weeks or something like that, it's because of the recent storms and where they're located. They're taking just a little bit longer. I meant to mention that earlier at bingo as well, but definitely reach out to her, because she'll be waiting to hear from you, and she will give you all the details that we have. So, and this is fantastic. First win. Now, if you guys are interested in any of our bingo that we have coming up, then the Friday night bingo page is here. Also on the Friday night bingo page is a WikiTree store. So for those of you who won, if you want to head over to that bingo page, at the very top is the stores listed. Feel free to click on the store, see what the options are. Again, the bingo mug is a collector's mug, and they're different versions, but everybody seems to like the all black bingo mug that we have. David, next month is a little different, so let's let everybody know. Is part of WikiTree Week. We will not technically be the first Friday of the month, because the WikiTree Symposium is going to be going on then, and we will actually be part of WikiTree Week. And David and I got to talking after my trip to Pittsburgh last year. I was mentioning this common phrase that you guys might know, keeping up with the Jones. And I was mentioning to him that I saw the mansion where the actual Jones lived. I will say a mansion, it's more like, 5 city blocks. I don't know if it's that. So we got this really cool idea for bingo. And the cool idea is it's all in a name. And that's where we'll leave you tonight. So thank you guys for joining us, and definitely sign up for WikiTree Week and the symposium. You'll have a lot of fun, and we will see you amongst WikiTree Week next week. Have a good month. As we roll.